Hey everybody, I just seen Lex's video for uh, was it Tainos and Latins and Black, right? And it brought me back to a conversation I had with Arthur Scott Jr. earlier this week, which really had me going because I just finished up talking about how you know our people are still symbol illiterate, including myself. I'm not above any of that stuff. And I was mentioning to him about the dove. How when we see the dove, we've been taught to think about the external meaning of the dove. Meaning on the outside, we're taught that it means it's a symbol of peace, just like the olive branch and whatever. But on the inside, to those in the know, the dove is no different than getting a letter from an assassin or having the beam of a rifle aimed on you. It's the mark of death. And as Lex was reading some of that stuff, he was hinting around it, and it was funny because, like I said, I just started talking to Arthur about this stuff, just pointing out, we got to sit back and ask yourself, why is Washington, D.C. called the District of Columbia? You have a Columbus, Ohio. I know that's not the same words, but you see what I'm just bear with me. You know what I'm saying? You have was it Columbus, South Carolina, right? The capital there. Where do all the drugs come from? Seems to be out of Columbia. Sticking with DC, not Ohio and South Carolina, but Columbia. South America, right? And you see it everywhere. We have you have Columbia Pictures. Remember the shootings at the high school that really kicked off all these popular shootings at high schools all of a sudden with the Colin Bean High School. They called it what? The School of the Doves. And Colin Bean goes back to some of the older rituals you hear about, where it was a place in, was it Bulgaria, where you would sacrifice boy virgins and female virgins. So it was interesting, right? And I had that on the mind. I was like, I'm gonna share it eventually. But it was just interesting how that just came out, and how it ties into, everything. But getting to this, I was thinking about Akron, and for some reason I started thinking about Lord Elzebub, the Lord of the Flies, right? And I don't know if you've seen it, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago, there was a video on you where this woman basically had to abandon her house in, was it Illinois, because it was taken over by flies. And the house was clean, like her house was spectacular, but the flies they were attracted to it, and it just, I listened to people try to explain it, and all they could figure was there's a demon in that house. And we know, was it Lord Elzebub? He claims he's the Lord of the Flies, so you just wonder how close was she to that, entity. But as I was sitting back here and I was just reading about Akron, once again, you think it's a play on words because you think about Akron, Ohio, right? And then other things start to stand out. The more you start to read, you think about right here where it says one of 5 cities belonging to the Philistines, right? Situated in the Maritime Plain. It is mentioned in connection with Ark, which is interesting because Ark, and look over here, Archon, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I've recognized at least the Archon and Ark to this because a while back when I was into all that, chasing down the, symbols and stuff like that, this gentleman had a video and he explained that when he was doing the symbols, he showed the symbol for, it was the one where, he explains, he was explaining how, what was it, Martin Luther King was shot and killed in the Lorraine Hotel. And what was it? The some of the knights of Malta wear the Lorraine cross, and these were the knights that were getting that when you looked them up, they're being blessed by the Pope. But he was pointing out to one of the gas stations, and he says that if you look up archon in a Latin dictionary, archon means fallen angels. So I always had the word arch and archon. These things stick with me, as I was just trying to sit around, breaking this stuff down. So you just think about it. Not only, if that's the case, if it's true, not only did the Philistines have the city of Elzebub, one of the 5 cities, but was it one of the 5 cities of the fallen angels? If you put it in that perspective. Now that might be reaching, but I'm just saying, if that's connected. But I'm gonna move on. So what I did was I took this and I wanted to see what the internet had to say about it. Let me see here. Let's see. That's what I found. I found there was one in Kentucky. There we go. We got one of them in Kentucky, in which Kentucky is interesting because it has a lot of that, hidden Ethiopian writings and temples and towers that are over the, not temples, I'm sorry, but towers that are ruins of somebody ancient living there, that are all over the place. But as I took the Wikipedia to read about it, I read through all of this, and it's all a feel-good story, all that wonderful stuff. Because it kept showing me Akron, so I was just like, I'll look into it. But one of the things that stood out was down here at the very end. Come on. Let's see. Was it the very end? Hold on. There it is. Sister cities. Now, why would it give that Ekron, Ohio, is a sister city to Ekron in Israel, and this other place here in Germany? I mean, we all have heard about sister, cities, and like I work at a university, so we have sister schools, where I can also attend those other schools, and it'll be just the same as if I was attending the school I work for. You know what I mean? So that stood out to me, and especially the fact that it didn't show up the Akron in Kentucky, but it chose this to be its sister school. Instead of Akron, Ohio being the sister school to Akron, and what's the place there in that we just looked at there? It's in Kentucky. It chose over in Israel. So let me see this here. I don't think I need that. Yeah. Do I need this one? No, I think I was just reading more about it from this other Jewish encyclopedia sites. Let's see. Back to here. See enough. So here it is. Yeah, I was looking up just to make sure I was correct. What does sisters, cities mean? It says a city that is linked to another, usually for the purposes of cultural exchange. So what the heck is Akron in Ohio being linked to Akron in Israel? Ekron in Israel. What is the sister exchanges for? What is the exchanges for? See what I'm saying? That's something to sit back and think about. And I also went to the etymology just to see what it had to say about it and stuff. Nothing really caught my eye except for this. This made me think about afros, right? Understand, it might be a reach. You might be saying, "Melvin, you're just doing a whole bunch of reaching here." Think about it. Replace that K with an F, and it's afros. Now I want to sit back and think about what if there is a language where K's and F's are, if they're exchangeable, interchangeable, because it just makes you wonder. That is so close in its spelling, and then when you look up, the etymology of Afro. Let me see if we can pull it up here. Talks about Afro. Let's see. Yeah. Full bushy hairstyle worn by some people of African ancestry. From 1938, from Afro, sometimes shortened to FRO, fro, as a general abject for black styles of clothing, music, etc. So, as you could almost see where I'm getting with this. It was so close in spelling. I just had to sit back and think, is that a play on words? So I was just looking it up, and I got some Finland, and that's when the whole Finland thing led me to this page here, which I thought this was interesting. Check this out. Afro, which Lex was the first to clue me in on this at all, Afro-Asiatic language families. And of course, it goes into stuff we already know, but, that with the teachings of Lex, that the Afro-Asiatic families, Afro-Asiatic, formerly called Hamitic-Shemitic, is the largest language families in North Africa. And I think it is interesting because as it talks about North Africa, look what all they include in North Africa. See that? That's what? That's Yemen and all of that, right? Isn't that part of Iraq and stuff? So when they're talking about Africa on this site here, about the world's languages, they just don't leave it into the continent that we've always been told is Africa. They collect, Madagascar, they collect Yemen, all these places over here as well. That's a lot, right? So you got to sit back and think about this too when you read the book of Genesis, and it talks about the Garden of Eden and stuff like that. I might be wrong, but I think it's somewhere. Some of the places it's mentioned, I might be wrong, but some of the places mentioned fall within this region of it. I know it's not down here and all that, but I believe it's in this region. But it was just another site that just made me, I thought was interesting. I just thought that was interesting about the whole part of it being, it stretches further out than what they'll give credit for on the world maps. And a lot of it's just the normal stuff we already know about. As far as Afro-Asiatics being the speakers of Hebrew and Arabic and stuff like that, and for some reason, the people that call themselves Jews are speaking an Afro-Asiatic language, and they don't even have an Afro. Go figure, right? Let's see. I was just looking around on that page. I was running across some names. Some people. Thought it was interesting because it mentions that they're Afro-Asiatics, and I'm not picking on them. I know they're in Africa, it's hot and all that, but I didn't see too many images of them having afros. Oh, let me make sure I do this too, because you got to put in black, because they kept trying to give me, I don't know, whitewashed. I don't. There's a better name for it, but people that had no idea, that didn't look like them at all. But there we go. Now that afro is a different texture too compared to mine. I don't think I'll be able to get it up any better than that. see here. Yeah, so I'm done with that. I think I'm done with that. Let's see here. Nah, I know this is this really doesn't tie into the lesson. I was just going over this with other people I was speaking to, but I just want to point this out because we were talking about the creation and this, just bear with me, all right? I'll show you what I'm talking about, the creation, and they were talking about you know why they don't believe in the Bible, and they were using the whole thing about Cain marrying his sister. I have a different feeling about the whole thing about Cain marrying his sister, because whether the writers of the Bible or of the books of the Torah, the first 5 books, wrote this down. I'm just saying I don't believe that the Creator would ever change. He says, "I am, the Creator. I changed not." So I don't ever believe that even if you are the first man and woman, that He would allow ancestral relationships, and I'm going to show you why. One thing I learned while going to the Christian churches and stuff like that, the white Christian churches, is they always teach you to look for the head notes, right? And so you know what you're looking for when you're skimming through trying to find, certain, parts of the Bible to speak from. One gentleman showed us that by doing that, it's led us astray to some degree, because you end up reading all of this, and you read the top part, you start reading the verse, and then it kind of shuts off your mind of reasoning. It kind of shuts off your mind of, okay, what did I just read? You read this, and it prepares your mind to read all this. Versus if this wasn't here and you were reading, your mind's constantly thinking. And I'm going to show you this. The 6-day creation on the lands. Right? Let's pick up down here. And He said, "Let us make man in our image and likeness, and let him have dominion over the fishes of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and the beast, and the whole earth, and every creeping creature that moveth upon the earth." And God created man. Now this is on the 6th day. 6th day He did this. God created man, right? To His own image. To the image of God He created man, right? And now I think this is talking about animals here. I don't think this is man that He's talking about here in this part. Male and female He created them. But I only think about that because we know the etymology of female. We know that there's nothing to do with, with the woman, unless this has been corrupted, which it could be. That's why they put that there. But I don't know. Let's keep going. And God blessed them and said, "Increase and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and rule over the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the air and all living creatures that move upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed upon the earth, and all the